Welcome to another episode of Rome Overlanding. Today is going to be quite an interesting episode. We are here at Revhouse and we're going to be partnering up with Terrain Tamer today. There's a bunch of stuff that we need to do on the Hilux today. We're going to be looking at stuff like catch cans, diesel filters. We've got a bunch of goodies. I'll show you guys everything that we're going to kind of be going through today. We'll be having a chat with Marinus from Terrain Tamer, and he's going to be walking us through why do you need to maybe do some of these things to your vehicle. But anyways, stay tuned. Today is going to be really cool. I'm here with Marinus from Terrain Tamer. We've got a table full of awesome gadgets over there that we're going to be popping into the Hilux today. If you want to keep the vehicle running well for a long period of time, it's good to do these things. Are there any kind of particular things that you think is like #1 points for somebody, whether they have a vintage vehicle or a new kind of off-road vehicle? What are some things that we want to look at first?
If it's a second-hand vehicle and it's an old vehicle, then you'll have to have a look at how the previous owner maintained the vehicle. So there's a lot of small things. I think the first thing when someone looks at overlanding, it's I need bigger tires, I need a suspension, I need all of these extras and so on, but you need to have a look at your engine. You need to make sure that all the oils in the diff and the gearbox and everything are done, your diff breathers and so on. And then as soon as you made sure that everything is 100% and up and running, then maintaining that. So that's where the second diesel filter comes in, your catch can, diff breathers, all of those type of things. Water diesel separation, as soon as you're getting dirty diesel or water in your diesel, you want to make sure that everything is running smoothly. Because those are the things that's going to keep you somewhere where you're going to be stuck in the middle of nowhere.
And I mean, and those are things that are relatively easy to prevent. So we're going to run through some of those things today. We're going to show you what we're going to be putting on the Hilux, and we're going to kind of walk you through some of the benefits of putting these things on and what you can expect. So anyways, guys, join us. Let's start looking at some of the awesome stuff.
We're going to start with the diesel pre-filter that we're going to install. It comes with a 30 micron filter. So the ideal filter size for filtering out water out of diesel is 30 microns. Your standard diesel filter is 7 microns, so 7/1000ths of a millimeter. With 30 microns is the ideal speed of diesel flowing through the filter, making sure that there's diesel water separation. So you'll be able to see the water in the polycarbonate bowl when you do your morning checks and so on. It also comes with a very nice installation kit, so you get your bracket and all your pipes and quick release fittings and everything comes in a kit with the diesel pre-filter.
So we're all finished up with the pre-filter, and it's actually really nice to see how the bracket is actually made to accommodate a secondary battery up front here. So we did have to remove the battery, install the bracket and then install the pre-filter on there, and it fits beautifully in here. All the little pipes and everything are running nicely. And if you saw the diesel filter that came out of my original diesel filter, how filthy that was. And that was from one overlanding trip. That was 5,000 Ks overlanding across South Africa. But obviously during a pandemic, some diesel stations are going to have dirty fuel and water and all sorts of stuff in there because they're really scraping the bottom of the barrel. But this is why you have these types of setup, is to really be an insurance policy against getting dirty fuel. You never know when that can happen. Just to give that little bit of extra protection against stuff like water and that as well, it'll separate the water. You'll be able to drain that water off if necessary, you know what I mean? So that's basically going to give you a warning. You can even get an electronic signaler from here that connects up into your vehicle, just a little red light, and it'll go red when you've had water in your system. So there's a lot of nice functionality out of these, and I think it is really something that an overlander, especially if you start going cross-border and things like that, you should have on your vehicle. But next up, we're going to be doing the catch can. I'm keen to see how all of that goes in and works. It's very interesting learning about all of this. We also have the diff breathers to do, so that's going to be interesting. We're going to have a look at that and kind of walk through all of that. So anyways, hope you guys are enjoying, and let's get back to work.
So with the catch can, you basically capture all the oil vapor that exits from the crankcase. It gets ventilated through the catch can, catching all of that oil. The heart of the whole thing is the filter that's on the inside. This is where the advantage of the Flashlube Catch Can is, making sure that we're capturing all the oil vapor and oil that exits your crankcase to make sure that you can drain that. Comes with a very nice installation kit, no drilling on the vehicle. You also get pre-bent pipe. Your piping is all pre-bent, making sure that there's no pinching and closing of pipes. That is breathable and all the air flows smoothly through the pipes. So it's got a pressure and vacuum release valve. If there's any closure of the system that you don't overpressurize your crankcase.
You want some oil?
So you can see all the oil coming through your system just from that crankcase breathing. So air coming in, crankcase getting ventilated in there, and then this is after the turbo. So all of that came through the turbo, everything, and that's what's condensed in your intercooler, and then clogs your air intake.
I really love the finish of putting the catch can in. All of these kind of pre-bent pipes that come with the kit. It really looks good. It looks like a factory finish. So it's great to have that done now. We've got the little valve at the bottom for draining off all of that kind of liquid and oil and everything. Also, we looked inside the pipes of the exit of the turbo of the whole air system around the engine, and you can actually see how much oil and residue in there. So you can imagine that getting into your intercooler and your turbo and all of that stuff. Having something like a catch can is just going to mop up all of that stuff. And actually the service intervals for this are actually really good. I mean, considering my motor and things like that, we might be looking about 30 to 40,000 Ks to have to actually change the filter inside here. And every 2,000 Ks, we're just going to open up the valve and let the liquid and stuff out into like a little bowl or something, because there'll be contaminants and oil and all sorts of stuff in there, and dispose of that. But at least that is not going to be coating the inside of your turbo and your intercooler. So it's actually been very cool getting to learn more about all of this stuff, and there's a kind of a weird sense of confidence about my engine going forward. And to really look inside and see how much dirt and grime can actually get in there is quite scary.
Use a breather, so as soon as you start sucking in too fast, it will close it, so that no water gets in, but there's dirt and things getting in here. And then if it needs to close, it doesn't close, and it just basically sticks there. So there is method to the madness, but it's not, it will fail. That's why we will extend it into the engine bay.
Okay, so it is now diff breather time, and actually we found out that the front diff actually terminates in quite a nice position. So the only things we're going to be extending today is the rear diff breather and then the transmission breather. Now we're going to have to drop the whole gearbox a little bit to get access to that breather. It's not in the best place, but this is one of those things that it's just good practice in general to have on your 4x4. It's just going to help protect your diffs, help protect your transmission, all of that stuff.
We're also going to do a proper service on the vehicle. Diesel filter, cabin filter, air filter, some nice new oil. We're also going to make use of one of our Flashlube additives in the oil that ensures that the oil sticks longer to the components, making sure that there's less wear and tear in the engine.
What we're busy with now is actually doing a bit of some basic service stuff, greasing the prop shaft, checking the oils in the diff, the transmission case, and the front diff as well. We've dropped the oil from the motor, changing the oil filter. Adrian here at Revhouse, yes, you heard that right, he has the same name as me. They like to go the extra mile. They like to do all the extra little things like greasing the prop shaft and all that stuff that often kind of gets left behind in a more traditional service. So it's nice to be working with people who know what they're doing and have a passion for 4x4 and off-road stuff, so they know what to look for. So it's been very cool, very educational experience, I must be honest. I love learning about all of the stuff and getting to see, you know, how best to look after your vehicle.
It looks dirty, but it's not too bad.
Little works to spare.
Dat wil ook as 'n spare. Wat so met 'n bietjie grease. Grease hom net hier so bo dat hy mooi seël. Asseblief.
Don't look in there.
You need to have a look at your mass airflow meter, eh? Come and have a look here.
Okay, so we can see which one works.
So that's dirty.
Air filters don't really do all that much, do they? Got to change them regularly. And you can see that's just super fine.
Now that's the finest of the fine dust getting through. And all of that dust is basically going to your engine.
And then that builds up with the oil and other things that go in there.
That goes in, yeah, it basically mixes with your oil and everything's in your sump and so all of that, all your bearings, everything is running in
That's obviously why
that oil.
also changing that oil every 5,000 is just so important, because you're getting any of that does come through, you at least you're flushing it out. Yeah. So those are the type of things you find out when you work with people who know what to look for. And he could see that dust had gotten past the filter. Now this is a common problem. It really is a common problem. There's a couple little things you can do. Like you can put a little bit of grease around the rim of the air filter, and that can help just give it a bit of a tighter seal and just kind of prevent dust from squeezing past the filter. Now we drive our vehicles through extraordinary places and we do extraordinary things, and following your service plan's regular intervals is insufficient maintenance for an overlanding vehicle. So all that's going to happen is you're going to clog up that air filter and dust is going to get through, and it is going to slowly damage your engine. So combine that with not doing regular oil changes on your motor and you have a recipe for disaster. So vehicles are expensive. Overlanding vehicles are expensive to upgrade and to use. Doing these little things can really not only save you, time and precious money when you're out on your trips and, not breaking down, but it's also going to save you in the long run. You're going to have a much better vehicle. You're going to be confident about your vehicle, and you're going to know it much more personally if you are checking these things or you're taking it to a place where they know what to check for. And develop that rapport with your workshop so they know your vehicle as well as you do. Actually, they'll know it much better than you.
Now we could get the last parts of the service done. I also needed to get a couple of little extra maintenance things done though, and luckily the team at Revhouse were happy to help out. One of the first things I needed to get looked at is a service on my long range tank, then inspecting some damage caused by the secondary battery underneath the bonnet. But we'll cover more about this next week.
This is the oil stabilizer, and this just kind of coats the surfaces nicely and just helps with specifically the cold start friction. It minimizes that because it has that nice coating on all the internal components.
It would have been very tricky to do this on my own, and to have professionals like Adrian here at Revhouse and Donnie, who was helping with all of the mechanical work, it was a fun educational experience. And every time I get to see the work on the vehicle happening, I learn a little bit more. But I certainly know having somebody who I can rely on and trust to kind of do this stuff for me is a huge weight off my shoulders. If you want to actually do something like this to your vehicle, I highly recommend it. I actually think these are the type of mods you should be making to your vehicle way sooner in the build, because like my vehicle, for example, has got a long life ahead of it, and to take care of its motor and all of its components from the get-go is actually fantastic. Huge thank you to Terrain Tamer for coming on board and wanting to look after the longevity of this vehicle. And I know that if anything goes wrong on this vehicle, that I can turn to them and they'll have stuff to help me out. They've got everything you might need. So consider heading over to their website or getting in touch with Marinus and chatting to them about any of your needs for your vehicle. So that brings us to the end of our work on the Hilux. It's been it's been a very educational process. I think Adrian here at Revhouse has really made it a fun experience. We've had a lot of chatting, and Marinus from Terrain Tamer, you know, with his experience as a mechanical engineer, I've done so much learning off camera about the vehicle, just learning about why these things are important and, you know, why you may need them has been a really fascinating and educational experience. But I hope you guys have kind of enjoyed this as well. So I just want to say thanks for tuning in, and I think what's next, you may have seen the spotlights on the front of the vehicle. Those do need to get wired up and get all the lighting and stuff set up. So we might be back at Revhouse soon to come and do some wiring, and maybe we'll have a look at how to do that and maybe look at, you know, how the relays work, how the switches work. Let me know in the comments down below if that is something you guys might be interested in. Then Adrian and myself will maybe take a little bit of a slower approach on the wiring and kind of show you guys some of the basics and things to look out for. Maybe you go to a fitment center and they do your lighting. You might be able to catch them out on some poor workmanship, or you might be able to do it yourself. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week. Cheers.
Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of Rome Overlanding, and I just want to give a special thank you to my awesome Patreon members. And if you'd like to also support the show and contribute to the weekly episodes, consider heading over to Patreon in the description below or on the screen now. Anyways, see you next week. Cheers.